Rox Burkey. I am an author. I am a interviewer for Indy Beacon, and I am here with a wonderful person today to talk with you about, are you interview ready? Charlotte, a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Charlotte Canion. I'm an author, speaker, and mentor, and I actually have an invention as well. But I've got one book out there that's best self-help book 2018. You have to laugh to keep from crying, how to parent your parents. My second book is coming out this fall, co-authoring it with a doctor, and it's called The Guilt Syndrome, Caring for the Caregiver. So I'm actually the caregiver's guru.
Cool. All right. So we're going to talk with you today about interviewing and how to do some things better. So the agenda of what we're going to cover is that you want to prepare in advance. We want to make sure that we give you some tips and tricks and tools so that you're ready to rock and roll with that. We also want you to kind of focus on the different things that are needed for the different kind of interviews, depending on where that is coming from. Some are live, some are in newspapers, some are on blog tours. There's lots of different things. And then practice techniques that we recommend that you use. And then we'll kind of do some role playing, so you guys are going to have to work in teams, and we're going to have a little interactive thing going on. And then, of course, questions. Sound good? All right. So with that, Charlotte, why don't you kick it off?
Okay. How do you prepare in advance? Well, everyone's written their books, so they know what their topic is. But you need to kind of put together some questions that you might want the host to ask you, and we ask you ahead of time to send those to us. Now, Rox likes to talk to her, who she's interviewing ahead of time. I kind of liked you to send me, your bio and a little bit of questions you want, and I want to spontaneously ask you on air, those questions. So I haven't preconceived what your answer is going to be, because I might choose another question out of your answer.
There you go. And so what we have done here is we're gonna actually give you a piece of paper. You want to hand those out real quick? And it's a two-sided document that Charlotte's handing out. One side is questions that you might want to prepare in advance. And so I also want to show you some things that we happen to have out. Some different things you might want to share, how to do things, and you'll have this. And this is like one of the interviews that I did, and it's not moving on here, of course. Sorry about that. So the links that are out here will actually go to, sorry, this is a very slow machine. Hang on. It's locked. Of course.
Can you
All right, so these links that are on the bottom here are some different examples of different interviews, because one thing that you should do before you do any kind of an interview is try to investigate what an interviewer will do with you. Like Charlotte was saying, she likes to have questions in advance. She has several interviews that she has done for Indy Beacon that are published, and you can take a look at those, as do I. So we want to talk about newspapers. As far as newspaper questions, so interestingly enough, we actually had a Dallas Journal contact us and asked to do a whole spread on us as local South Dallas authors. And so they sent, 8 or 10 questions to us that we needed to fill out and complete, and then they published us out in their online newspaper, online magazine. So it's very important that you take a look at what they've done before for other people so that you can hit their target audiences, and that's been brought up several times today. And you've had some newspaper interviews.
I've had newspaper and magazine articles, and what they do is they send you a whole list of questions, and they want you to fill in all the blanks, and then they will they'll extract what they want to put in the article. And normally on a newspaper, they will also want you to send pictures, and if you have a book, a picture of your book, and anything else that's pertinent to your topic.
And the other thing that was talked about a couple times in several of the classes is when you have pictures that you need to send out to people, please don't do it off your iPhone.
Make sure they're professional.
Yes.
Sorry, that's the one thing you gotta do, really, is have professional pictures.
So even on, things like this, there's pictures that are good pictures, and then on this one sheet, for example, that Charlotte did.
Well, this is part of my media kit. This is part of my win sheet.
But
Yeah.
these are professional pictures that are done. They're very nicely done, and she has several of them so she can use different ones for different kinds of audiences. That's a very, very important aspect. Makes you look more professional, it makes you look on, and those kinds of things.
Remember that old adage, you gotta look successful before you are successful?
True that. And then recommend other people. So we had another issue that came up where Charles and I had a newspaper group that was asking us. It was Fort Worth wanted to do a little interview with us, and we wrote up and we did that. But we also recommended 2 other people in that area that had the same kind of activity going on that they could interview. They love that because they're lazy.
Well, and we were in a class earlier today, and if you remember, they're always, if you're in that class where the newspapers are on, they're always looking for someone to interview. They're always looking for someone to write an article on. And all you gotta do is just pass it on. And we're a family. Texas Authors is a family, and we refer each other and help each other with things we learn tremendously, and especially pass on to newspapers and magazines. And even if it's just a local newspaper and you have a friend that's an author, pass that on. It's important.
Or for library things. Charlotte actually gave us a lead one time to be part of a library group. That was very helpful for us. We ended up being on a panel. It was a lot of fun. So you get more exposure, you get more buzz, but you also make a solid community and a solid family when we do that. So make sure that you do emails. I know on our tables that are in there, both of us have our address books out there. Please add your emails so that we can keep track and maybe alert you, maybe give you information about our stories, but also be aware that you might want to participate in an event if there's somebody we need. All right, you're at an event. All right, you are just at a wonderful little event. You've gone to a show, you've gone to a book fair, you've gone to the North Texas Comic-Con, which is where this recently happened to us, and you actually have someone come walk up to you, and they have a microphone and a camera. And they say, hey, what do you do? What do you say? You can. Okay, that's probably not your best choice, but that is almost a normal, immediate reaction.
Well, and did any of y'all go to the, your elevator talk?
No,
It was canceled. Okay, just real quick, if it was canceled, let me just tell you real quick. You need to, in 1, 2, or 3 sentences, be able to describe who you are, what your book's about, and what your purpose is. And if they lean into you and they want to know more, you have a really good elevator talk. In a nutshell, that's what it is. I'll give you mine real quick to give you an example. What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to parent your parents? I had a father-in-law with dementia, a mother with Alzheimer's, and a dad with Parkinson, all at the same time. At that point, they're going, can I get your book? You have to have something that hooks them.
There you go. And rather than just panic, which again is a really, really normal reaction, and I'm going to have to ask you if you've ever had this happen. But rather than panic, you just want to be as honest as you can be. If you need to swallow, swallow. Have you ever been at an event where someone has actually walked up to you and said, hey, tell me about you, why are you here? Yeah. And so you can't panic. You have to have something in mind that you can say. Don't lose the opportunity.
And prepare.
I guess is what I'm saying. Don't lose the opportunity.
Prepare. Write it out. Learn it. Make it sure it's just part of your genre.
and we are going to talk about more about preparedness.
Yeah,
But
preparedness.
you know, if you're selling something like at a book fair or at some event, and you actually have your books there, use your security blanket, right? Pick up your book, you know, just kind of hold it and get centered on why you have this book in your hand, and the rest of it will flow. It will happen. All right, so now the next one is, it's an audio only.
Audio only, that means you don't have to, you can do it in your pajamas. It's just audio. But the interesting thing is if it's just audio, some people just have, you talk on the phone all day long, play like you're talking on the phone. But one of the things I do, even whether it's audio or video, is I'll put a picture where I can look at it of somebody I love, someone that's very comfortable to talk to. And you just, as the person on the phone or, however the audio is, because sometimes a Zoom doesn't work. Oh, obviously it didn't work today. But sometimes things don't work the way they're supposed to, and you need to always have plan A and plan B and sometimes plan C. But have a picture there of someone you like. So when you're talking to a total stranger, he's a reporter and he's interviewing you, he's shooting questions at you, answer it like you would to your mom or your dad or whoever's picture, you put up here.
The other thing you can do is you can have a mirror. So one of the things that happens is a lot of times people don't put a smile in their voice. You got up this morning, the coffee pot was empty, you had to kick the dog, your spouse yelled at you, or the world is just not good. So even if it's just audio only, when you look at yourself, it's very hard to growl at yourself. It's much easier to kind of smile and look at yourself. Of course, you can.
Here's a selfie.
There you go. But you can always smile. I mean, that's just part of your whole makeup. The other thing is, don't be late. I think it was David that mentioned earlier, they set up this whole media thing and somebody, a lot of effort went into it. Somebody didn't show. Oh, please be on time. Please don't be late, because it does delay and impact other people. And people that are interviewing you on a radio, which is typically where you're going to have the audio only, they made time in their life to do that for you. When you're late, that's disrespecting them.
I'll have to share something right now.
There you go.
I have 20 grandchildren. Most of y'all don't know that. And all my clocks are 30 minutes fast. So I'm never late for anything, but they call it the me mom clock, because they have to think, oh, wait a minute, I'm not late. No, you're not late because you're 30 minutes early.
Does that make sense? Now, you're actually going to do an audio and a video. So how many of you have actually been interviewed on Indie Lecture or on Dear Texas?
If you haven't, you need to call one of us.
No, you need to call Alan to schedule.
Call Alan to
we
schedule.
can't
it.
schedule.
But you can say, I want Bronx or Charlotte, and you know what? We don't care which one you ask.
No, we want you to get the, especially if you're a member of one of the associations, that's one of your benefits. And so we want to make sure that you don't lose that benefit. So when you have an audio and a video, you could actually have your fuzzy house shoes on, but I might change my top and not have my pajama top on. I might actually put on, a shirt. But I probably would comb my hair. I might put makeup on, because you are going to be on camera with an audio and a video. So the other thing that you should do is you should practice in advance. So, okay, how do you practice when you don't have the bridge? Okay, there's two ways that you can do that. One, you have a mirror in your bathroom. You can actually do it against a mirror and kind of get your, here's some questions, here's some answers. How do I look when I'm answering it? Do I look like I'm mad? Do I look like I'm happy? Am I glad to be there? How do I feel? So that you can get the right intonations in your voice, even if it's an audio and a video. The other thing you can do is you can have your significant other film you. Use that iPhone to a good, or Droid, use it to its advantage and do a pre-film and then look at it.
You can record on your own.
Yeah, and you can record on your own computer in most cases. But did you like it? Did you not like it? How are people going to react to it? The reason I ask that is because when you do an audio and video interview, what happens to it?
Well, it's ending up on Facebook, it's gonna be on YouTube, it's gonna be everywhere.
It's going to be everywhere.
And
So-
you wanna put your best foot forward,
That's right. That's right.
always.
So you want to make sure that what the impression is a good impression that you left. Because it's going to be there for a while. Is that the only audio video impression you're going to make?
No, hopefully you'll make hundreds.
That's right. That's right. So hopefully you'll get on TV shows, and you're going to be on bloggers, and you're going to be on all different things. You know, I can tell you that the first time that Charles and I were on TV, I was petrified. It was like, but we got through it just fine. I can tell you the second time was much better. You improve the more you do things. It's just like your writing. Is the very first chapter you ever wrote the best chapter you ever wrote?
Oh, yeah.
No, of course not.
And let me share something. I was on Good Morning Texas, and you know what? The girls that interviewed me put on their clothes the same way I do. So they're not any better or what they do than you are. They just want to talk to a friend. And that's the way everyone that interviews you, whether it's audio or video or both, they just want to make you look good because it makes them look good.
And that's a great point, because you want it to be something where you end up looking good and you help them look well. It's important, I think, that you know a little bit about them. I've done several interviews with authors, and one of the faults that I find is that people won't pause. They get so excited that they're getting interviewed, and maybe it's their very first interview, and they can't stop talking. It just goes. So like 20 minutes, we want to take a small break, right? We got sponsors and all those things. We got to take a commercial in there. So it's important that a pause happen, and it's a conversation. That's one of the reasons that my personal technique is I like to speak to the person in advance of the interview and just kind of get a conversation flow going so that it's not the very first time we've ever actually spoken.
Well, I usually talk to them right before the program, and of course, and Alan tells them, and I tell them that, you know, we're going to talk for 12 minutes, then we're going to talk for 10 minutes, and then we're going to talk for 5 minutes. So, you know, I'm cognizant of the time because I'm used to looking at it, but I also kind of, you know, as they're talking, if I have to kind of notice that I'm only 90 seconds to the commercial, I'll go, oh, hold that thought for a minute, because, you know, we're going to, you know, if we interrupt you, it's not because we're being mean, it's because we've got to go to commercial, and Alan will do it whether we're talking or not.
But it's really hard to interrupt people. I personally was brought up not to interrupt people. So for me, it's a personal hardship. I got to go, stop. The other thing is, and this is a really important point, when you are being interviewed and you have a video, have something around you or behind you with regards to your books. Don't have, you know, all of the laundry hanging up. Because they're not only going to see you, they're going to see whatever's behind you.
Make it clean.
So it should have your book. Maybe it has a banner. You have a great banner inside. That's always nice to kind of show on the side. So not that you have to go buy a banner, but a couple of your books are always really, really nice to have
And
around.
if you don't have a good place to display your book while it's, you know, within this realm of the screen, have your book handy. So when you start talking about it, you can just hold it, and don't hold it here. You know, hold it where we can see the title, we can see the cover, and we can also see your face. And you don't have, I mean, I've interviewed ones that, you know, didn't have it on a display where you see it, and sometimes it's way back here and you can't see it anyway. So be sure, if you do have one on a shelf, bookshelf in the back, have one by you, because I might say, hey, show us your book. I see it in the background, but can you show it us up close?
Okay, does that make sense? Yep. Have you done any other techniques when you've done an audio or video interview that you liked, that worked for you? No? No? Okay, well, next time that we get together, I want to hear all your techniques, because you're going to find new things that we haven't talked about here. But these things do work. Okay, from a practice perspective, and practice is very, very important. So you have the handout that Charlotte handed to you, right? So what I would like you to do is look at the author interview questions side of the handout and maybe just quickly answer the first 2 or 3. Just quickly, I mean, just real fast. You don't, just a straight up answer. Do you need a pen? I can provide a pen.
Write them on your paper.
Just write it right on
you've
there.
got an answer. Because you're going to role play in a minute.
Okay, so like the very first one, can you provide a quick summary of who you are as an author? You know, it might be I'm a brand new author. It might be I'm the author with my co-author Charles Brakefield, and we have 10 published books in our techno-thriller series. They're award-winning, including book number 10, who received the Texas Authors 2019 First Place Award. That's pretty fast, pretty succinct. So, quick summary of who you are as an author. You can always go into other questions about who you are as a mother, a grandmother, other professional work that you do. So, you know, another real quick, how did you get started writing? And you've got 30 seconds. Go ahead. How did you get started writing, Charlotte?
Well, after going through 16 years as a caregiver, God told me to write a book. And at the same time, I got an email inviting me to a writer's seminar, and I realized I couldn't write. I was just sharing my stories on paper.
Okay? Just that simple. So you can have this as a soft copy. Alan has it. It'll be part of the downloads that you get after this event. I would do something along these lines, because when you get a chance to be interviewed, you want to be able to hand these to someone immediately. We just had an offer, last week, to be interviewed, and we had an hour and a half to provide a summary of us, pictures of us, and questions that we'd like to have answered. We had it ready. It's all on our website. So
Yeah, once you put it all together, you may add things, you may delete things as you go through, but you will have, I would say 90% of it, you will have the bulk of it handy for you. And there's no reason it can't be laying right there and you go, oh, I forgot, you know, you can look down and glance a second and go, oh, yeah, this was what I wanted to say. Because I'm going to throw things at you because I love to know who the author is. And I'll ask them about their family. Do you have any children? Do you ever use family characteristics of your Aunt Sally in your books? You know what your book topic is. I even had an author tell me that they had a bad uncle. He actually was the villain in one of her books. So, you know, you never what you're going to get out. But the big thing is you want people to know about your book and where you get your ideas. Because I guarantee you there's not a person on earth that doesn't have a story to tell and doesn't have a book inside of it. Will they write it? No. Will they ever publish it? No. We're a very small knit family that have our book and have our stories written down. We have a book to hold in our hands. I think Alan said yesterday morning, you know, something that he, you know, wanted to always do. The one thing I always wanted to do in my life is I wanted to autograph a book. So that was one of my big things the first time I got to autograph my book.
there you go, and that's a good thing to do. The other thing is when you're doing practice, when you're filling these out, when you're doing an interview, cut yourself some slack. You are not going to be perfect. Ever. I've been doing a lot of interviews, and I actually did an interview on Thursday night. And whatever the situation was, whatever the conversation was, I said something to the author, and the author gave me an answer I was totally not expecting, and I burst out laughing. And I've never done, and then they started laughing. So we had a good time with it, but I could have really beat myself up and said, wow, you never should have done that. But I'm like, I'm human. It was funny. So cut yourself some slack. All right, we are people. And I learned a long time ago in business, before I ever started writing books, people do business with people first. You associate with, you know, your hairdresser, your barber, your suit maker, whatever it is, because you like the person and you get along. So people do business with people first. If I don't come across in an interview as a person, then I'm a puppet. Who wants a puppet? We can do hand puppets, but that's not what we are trying to do. We are trying to sell ourselves, right? Make sense? Anything else you want to add on this, Ms. Charlotte?
Well, you were saying people do, when you're selling your book, and I think you heard it in one or two other classes, you're not selling your book, you're selling yourself. And the book just happens to be an added read more about you or about what's inside of you. But you sell yourself. That's why I get my speaking gigs. That's why my books sell, is people meet me and they go, oh, I want to buy your book. You know, I'm dealing with this. And of course, like I say, mine is not fiction, it's real life. But everybody's got a story. I mean, and I know, you know, Rock's books are fabulous, you know. But
I paid her big bucks to say that.
Yes, she did. She did.
Okay, so now let's talk just a little bit, and then we're going to get into our role play. But I want to talk a little bit about the other side of this piece of paper.
Ma'am, while we're on this side, may I have one question?
Please.
Down at the bottom, questions you do not want to ask, such as personal, I mean, what would be?
That's a really important thing, and the reason is there are some subjects people just don't want to talk about. I did an interview for an author that actually wrote about her mother, and it was a very abusive situation. But she wrote the book in a fictional manner. And she goes, please don't ask me who I based the character on.
No.
Because it was
Yeah.
just too personal. So, and most interviewers will respect that. That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. But there may just be some things that they don't want you to go there. Okay.
But if you're an open book, that's just super.
Yeah.
Roxy, I have been asked that question. It seems like every time someone has asked that question, that's the first thing they ask me,
Really?
really. And live interview, especially live interviews.
Wow, if that's the case, if that's the luck that you're having, then put your very best favorite thing in that life.
I know, exactly. I learned, first time it happened, I learned really fast.
I've never had that as a problem, and I respect it when I interview
you
people.
do a lot of, interviews and stuff like that. You have with Texas authors and that sort of thing, and I think people are really safe when they do that for you. I just want that people to be aware, especially if it's live, because when it's live, then they can't,
And so obviously that happens. That's a really good point that you bring up. So then maybe you mentally want to have some kind of a counter to that, to just move on down without being insulting to them. Like if you have said,
Mhm.
I don't want to talk about my divorces.
Right.
Okay, so really, can we talk about something else? Let me tell you about this in my book, and just take it a totally different way, which they can't ignore.
Yes, so
That's
you
a really
always
good point.
have to have, in case someone
Have different-
to do that. But yeah, I've just had it happen during live interviews.
Boy, I'd never interview with that person again. I'll tell you, that would really irritate me. And they would be blasted all over social media.
But
Just
if
for
you were
being
on Good
rude.
Morning Texas and it was, Jane.
Was it?
Uh-huh.
I don't think it was on Good Morning Texas that it happened.
No, it was not on Good Morning Texas, but.
They didn't do that to us.
No, they didn't.
Okay, so on the other side of this particular piece of paper is something that is a really good tool for you to also have available for any of the medias that may want to interview you. And that is a various sets of biographies about you as an author. And there's typically these 4 different size biographies. And, the first one, you've got to be really, really small from a size perspective. And then some really long. You also want to have contact information. How do they contact you? Name, address. Don't do a P.O. box. That's always kind of weird. Any social media handles that you have. Make sure you're very specific with them. And then a speaker introduction is really, really important. Hey, this is my speaker introduction. We're here today to talk with Charlotte. She's done this, this, and this. Welcome her here. Thank you very much. Provide that to whoever's doing this particular interview. It makes it easy. You're giving them a frictionless experience in dealing with you. Does that make sense? Okay, so break up into pairs, because we got 5 minutes to be able to do a little bit of role playing. And hopefully you wrote down those questions already. And just seriously, ask them back and forth. All right, so, one side do the questions, the other side do the answers. It just doesn't matter which one's which.
Copyright for years and advertising.
Michael, do you need some?
Thanks, Sean. So just, use the questions on the sheet?
Yes,
Questions
just a
on
couple
the
of them, just to practice.
Just do it.
A little bit of fun, just having somebody ask you or answer a question.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
Okay, that's the practice idea. That's what you want to do in advance. I recommend that you find someone to practice with, or take your buddy that you just met and go sit in a corner and do a practice. The more the better.
And or call your best friend on the phone. It doesn't have to be face to face. You can, play with that on the phone.
Did something that I couldn't.
What now?
And I'll see that they'll give you different pictures of different people. You'll have these segments, they'll rate themselves from, and you're ready to go.
There you go. Are there any questions? Because we're short on time and, oh, we're not? Oh. Sorry, my watch wasn't working correctly. Do you want to switch now and do a little bit more role playing and see how it feels going the other way? Let's do that. Come back around.
We're going to a commercial.
No, we're not. Okay, so Michael, I'd like an answer from you of what genre do you prefer writing in?
Nonfiction.
Okay, anything a little bit more narrow than just nonfiction? That's kind of broad on Amazon.
Political science.
Political science, there you go.
I'm sorry, your first name? Jean.
Yeah, I should turn around so you could see.
Who's your target audience?
I'm writing several different genres. I'm working on another second edition of a marketing book, and I'm talking to small businesses who mostly doing it themselves, don't have a lot of money. And I'm writing a memoir about growing up in the Mississippi Delta, and I'm targeting people from the Delta.
Oh, and I love your accent. That's I like that.
I do too. Let's see. My buddy. What inspired you to do your first story?
I needed a script for a production, and I couldn't find one I liked.
When you can't find it, what do you do?
You write it.
There you go, you build it yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so hopefully you had fun with this. Hopefully you'll use the cheat sheet.
I like
We
the
would
cheat sheet.
love to
Thank
have
you.
the feedback. If anybody wants this electronically, Alan can provide it, or you can write to me at authors.
Come on. Well, I did the
I'm waiting for somebody to get a piece of paper going here. At Enigma, ENIGMA, series, SERIES.com. And I will ship it to you immediately.
I'll just use this thing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.